Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, and the countdown to BILBAO firmly begins. If you're with us for the very, very first time, where have you really been? We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and we are on Blue Sky too. I'm pleased to tell you all, and one man that'll be more pleased than everyone on this show, we are parking Premier League debate, putting that to one side for these next 4 or 5 days, in which for Tottenham Hotspur, it's a big 4 or 5 days for them to come in arguably the club's most recent history. When you look at the recent theme of trophies won this season, just to put it into context, when you look at it, which is crazy in itself, Newcastle have waited 70 years for a trophy. Bologna have waited 51. Harry Kane's waited 31 years. Crystal Palace have waited 31 years. 17-year wait for Tottenham. Surely is this Tottenham's time. Heung-Min Son will hope it's Tottenham's time. Hoping it's also Tottenham's time are three of our favourite returning guests to Last Word on Spurs. A man that started all alongside me 7-8 years ago is back with me for a big, big show. Jace, lovely to have you here. Big week for the football club, right? Massive week.
Absolutely massive. And I think there's I just get a feeling there's a little bit more positivity around us going into this week from lots of people, rather than almost being written off as the out and out underdog the last 3 times. So, you know, as you say, I mean, even yesterday when watching Palace win it, watching what it meant to the Palace supporters, you know, that's what we want to have a taste of at 10 o'clock Wednesday night, and I'm quite confident we'll get it.
It's great to hear. I mean, it's fun, isn't it? I mean, despite, like we said, you know, you look back at the Premier League form, it's great to see some confidence going into such a big game for the football club. One man that's going to be there live and direct. As soon as this pod drops, he's off to BILBAO. George Achillea is back on the show. George, I know you're always quite a positive fan, but such a big week for the football club, right? Massive week for everyone. Supporters, players, manager, hierarchy. Massive week for the club.
It literally could change, I think, our club in the near and foreseeable future. But also, yes, thank you for having me on. Everyone, chat, you guys. Lovely to speak to you guys again. I've just been thinking about this final all week, man. I'm buzzing. I'm flying out early Tuesday morning. I wish I didn't have to work tomorrow, but unfortunately I do. So I don't know how productive that's going to be at all. But
oh my god,
yeah, this is huge for Spurs. I mean, I know we spoke about this on the show earlier in the week, but I think this sort of changes the trajectory for us or United, depending on who wins this final.
Yep.
For us, it's obviously like we know we're handed a shoestring budget every year by the club. It obviously unlocks that more for us. It unlocks the ability to attract better players. Not even just from the fact that we're in Champions League, the fact that we can now say that we are a winning club, we've won a big European trophy. It's going to be a huge uplift to the fans if we do it as well. So, yeah, for once, for me, sorry, I'm just super excited for Wednesday, and I've just got real positive energy towards it, and just fingers crossed, we're also a team that's going to end a tough drought.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I mean, Dave, when we reached out and we spoke, I mean, you said you're pumped already. I know as a fan, it's been really difficult this season to try and find that positivity. But to be fair, that European campaign has given us positivity. You look at, I think, overall in the course of Spurs' Europa League journey, in the 14 games this season, Spurs have scored 27 goals. They've conceded 13. They've won 9. They've drawn 3. They've lost 2. Another balmy stat out there. Spurs, they've scored more goals, 342, more than any other team in the UEFA Europa League in history. That makes Tottenham the top scorers in this competition's history, which again is a fascinating stat out there, really. How do you feel, Dave? And what we've discussed already is a massive week for supporters, players, manager, and just overall what it could be for the football club.
No, look, I think it's the biggest week in my history of supporting Tottenham, to be quite honest with you. Yes, the Champions League was big, but we didn't win it. You know, this is a chance where we can sort of kick on if you would like. You know, if we don't win this, a lot of our best players would probably be poached. You look at all the teams competing for Champions League within the league, you know, how far our squads are off compared to them. It's now a 6 to 8 team race, and we're a long way off that. And if we have to go through another manager change, you know, a lot more change, it's going to take a long time for us to get back there. However, if we can get over the line in this final, all of a sudden, none of that is a possibility. Everyone sort of signs new contracts, everyone stays, and you sort of kick on. You're back in Champions League football, and you sort of stave off a few years of what I would call very difficult years at Tottenham Hotspur that are ahead if we don't win this final. So I think it's very important that we get over the line in that regard. You know, some people would argue maybe it's putting a plaster or papering over the cracks, but at the end of the day, a week in football is a very short time or a very long time. Things can change very, very quickly. So for me, I think, you know, if we can get over the line here, I think not only do we remove that Spursy tag, which weighs on everybody that wears that jersey, every manager that comes into the club, I think removing that Spursy tag or the weight of history that's expected of these people, because when they walk into the football club, they're almost expected to change that immediately, and we all get annoyed when they don't. So I think removing that is absolutely crucial, just to allow people to come here with not a lot of pressure and just allow them to get on with their jobs. I think that would be absolutely crucial as well. But also, you know, just for us fans, I think we've gone, 6 years where it's been a very sort of up and down sort of time. Just to get back to used to winning, having that winning feeling, that joy again, I think is very, very important, you know, just heading into next season, because we're all at each other's throats. You know, there's a big disconnect between the club and the fan base as well. And it's just like, no one, even when we do win, no one really enjoys it. Everyone's expecting the next disaster around the corner. I just think winning a European trophy will be absolutely huge for everybody involved with this football club, just to get that taste of winning, them players getting that taste and that hunger of trophies again, you know, going into the following season. I think it's absolutely crucial. But I'm absolutely pumped, despite all the odds we are here. And you were speaking about the Europa League run. One thing you didn't mention, Mikey Moore getting his first goal for the club, Dane Sarr, Joy, Will Lancashire, all the youngsters that have contributed along this run to get here. The whole squad have played their part. The youngsters and some of the fringe players took care of it earlier on in the campaign, and then the big dogs came in and answered a lot of questions and put in a few performances away from home that many people like myself didn't think they had. We are going into this final with a better shot than what we did in 2019.
Dave, I mean, you've taken a lot of words right out of my mouth there, honestly. And I think that does summarise really what the last 4, 5, 6 years have been like. And look, we know in just over or under 72 hours time, these two Premier League sides, Tottenham and Manchester United, are going to contest, of course, this all-English European final, which for one of the clubs will see them given Champions League football the following season. And that there's no, I think, outright favourite, but I think you have to say that given United's illustrious history, you'd say to some degree, in comparison to Tottenham, that could give them the advantage. And it's quite interesting when you look back at Friday, we're not going to go back to the games on Friday, but two really different approaches from both Ange Postecoglou and of course, Ruben Amorim, in one in which Ruben Amorim fielded what you would led to believe would be maybe what looks like he's going to be his 11 for the European final come up against Tottenham, which he fielded against Chelsea. And Postecoglou took a slightly more reserved approach and pretty much changed a lot of his first 11, which you could understand given what Spurs have gone through over the course of the last couple of weeks, losing Kulusevski in the manner they have done. Of course, the fact losing James Maddison as well, that, you know, two of Tottenham's most creative or the creative players in the squad, they're no longer there at the moment. Obviously, Lucas Bergvall, we'll come on to in a little bit. There are reports suggesting that Lucas Bergvall, there's an outside chance of him featuring in this game. We'll bring the latest information on that. But look, we can't get away from the fact that the recent news in terms of injuries that hit the football club was on Friday night, where Pat Sarr become the latest injury victim to Tottenham, in which he was seen coming off the pitch at Villa Park in the early part of the second half, going straight down the tunnel. So once again, it means he's another doubt for Tottenham when it comes to what Spurs may do, of course, on Wednesday evening. As for United, they've got some big doubts as well. There's Lenny Yoro, Matthijs de Ligt are big doubts. Joshua Zirkzee has been ruled out. There's the return of Ahmad, and they've got Aidan Heaven, who was also able to bolster the defensive ranks by featuring for the first time in 2 months off the bench at Stamford Bridge. Just to also bring everybody up to date, just on a bit of housekeeping if I can. Tottenham, it has been confirmed, are going to be wearing white in, of course, the final. United will be wearing their traditional red, and Tottenham are going to be the home side, which I believe is the same as it was in the 2019 Champions League final. But interestingly, Tottenham will take the away dressing room in Bilbao. United will have the home dressing room. You are going to hear during the show from Vicario, Mickey van der Ven, Destiny Adogi, and Brennan Johnson on their thoughts going into this final. But I want to start with you, Jason, because David made some really interesting points there and just how big a game this is for both clubs. And look, I mean, there was a feeling, I think, and we both shared this, I think, in 2019, how proud we was of the team to get to the final against really all the odds. I mean, there were so many times during that run in 2019 under Pochettino that we should have really got out and we made it through to the final. And there was a feeling, I think, that we were so pleased to get there that I feel like that almost feeling took over the occasion of the final. Am I right in saying it feels a little bit different this time around, that, like you said, there's a bit of confidence in the air? When you look at our recent record against United, I'm beaten against them this season. I think, when you look overall at those performances, Tottenham pretty much have dominated those games to some degree. We know there's a bit of a scare, of course, in the Carabao Cup. Do you feel there's more of a feeling that there's real confidence going into this game, or do you worry about United's heritage and legacy when it comes to winning trophies?
No, I think with the big difference is, I mean, one was a Champions League final, and if you think about a Champions League final, I don't think Tottenham are at the elite level of football clubs at the moment. You kind of think Champions League finals is Barcelona, Real Madrid, the really big boys, if you like, the Juves, the Milans. Tottenham aren't at that level, so there was always a little bit of putting ourselves down kind of a thing. This time, I mean, when we played that Champions League final, nobody said at the start of the run, I think Tottenham can win the Champions League. But from the start of this run, we've believed we can win the Europa League. So that's the big difference. That's why I think there's more belief there. We're not against an Alex Ferguson side. We're against a side that's struggled just as much as we have. Liverpool that year got 97 points, lost one game all season. And they've won how many Champions Leagues? That was their sixth one, wasn't it? Their fifth or their sixth one. I mean, they're used to being at that level. Tottenham Hotspur, I think it was beyond our wildest dreams to be in a Champions League final at that stage. I'd love to be sitting here in 10 years' time and find that we've been in 3 Champions League finals and we suddenly feel that is our level. But it was a long way from where we were going into that competition. But this time, like I say, it's different. This is a trophy that we've won twice. It's one of the 17 trophies we've never won. All those major trophies, the times we've done it, but we've never won one. But I've seen us lift a Europa or a UEFA Cup, and there is real confidence. I think it's been such a shocking season. I think even that game at Villa on Friday, it's kind of binned off, isn't it? We didn't pick a team to win that game. We picked a team to think of a Europa League final. Whereas Manchester United, in fairness to them, they've been picking sides mostly to win games. They just can't win. They've won 6 out of their last 25. So there is confidence. The way that we've played against them twice, we've absolutely battered them. I know the 4-3 doesn't look a battering, but anyone there that night, we were 3-1 up or 3-0 up. We're 3-0 up at the stage, weren't we?
Forster effectively gave them 3 goals, really.
Fraser Foster gave them goals, and then we ended up, with Sonny kind of curling one in for our goal of the season. But I mean, for 70 minutes of that game, we absolutely battered them, and I think we were 3-0 up at that stage, and it could have been 5 or 6. We're ripping them to pieces, a bit like the Old Trafford game, 3-0 flattered Man United. So yeah, there's confidence, and I just get that feeling it's our time. It's been too long. It's our time to go and do something really special, and I think that's what will happen.
What's quite interesting, coming over to you, George, is that we've seen Amram's approach. He's almost trying to play down the fact that, what comes, the fact it's a Europa League final, the fact that he says they need Champions League. There's been a real, almost, I wouldn't say doing down of the competition, but definitely playing down of the magnitude of the fact it's the Europa League. Whereas Tottenham, I think we do feel quite proud to be there. We've got great heritage in this competition, obviously formerly the UEFA Cup. How do you look at the two sides? I mean, Jason said it there. They said, I think 6 wins in 25. There is pressure on Amram for sure, but United do have that heritage of going to finals and winning finals. And I think you look at Tottenham's recent record. I think we haven't scored in our last 4 finals. I think we had something along like 44 shots. How much of that plays into the mind of the players, or is it just a separate group? And just won his last 2 trophies. Amram's lost his last 2 trophies. How much it really plays into any significance going into this one for you?
For me, it's I can understand to be honest, in terms of the situation that Man United are in, I don't think he should be downplaying this trophy or what it means to the club as much as Amram has done. But what I will say is, and we can't kid ourselves here, Man United are a gargantuan club compared to ours. So naturally, they're probably all thinking that they shouldn't be in this position in the first place, that they should be a Champions League level team, a team that's fighting for the leagues. But let's be honest, that's not been the case for the last 10 to 15 years, however long it's been now, since they've sort of fallen off the wagon when Sir Alex Ferguson left. And at the end of the day, he can downplay the Europa League as much as he wants and saying that, oh no, we should be winning other games anyway, blah, blah, blah. But if we ended up winning it and they finished 16th without a trophy, without Champions League, they're in massive, massive trouble. They've already spoken about the fact that they're going to have to potentially sell a Garnacho or Kobe Mainoo just to be able to fund signing other players. So if they don't get Champions League, it's just as important for them as it is for us. And as someone said in the chat as well, they've been washed for a long time. So I think it's a bit too much of that ego from Man United, in my opinion, sort of downplaying it. Whereas, yes, this is a huge competition for us. We haven't won a major trophy in a long, long time. It's a very big trophy as well. And I think it shouldn't be downplayed in the slightest. And obviously, like I said earlier, the knock-on effects that it has for the club and for the fans and everyone, it's really important for us. And I think what I like and what I've seen in terms of their different approaches is you can completely disagree with Ange's tactics. 100%, I agree. It's been terrible at times, but you can't deny the way he sort of motivated the team in the Europa League has been very, very good. And you can sort of see that from the players' reaction after the Bodo Glimt match in the semi-final. Whereas it just, to me on the outside looking in, it feels just a little bit doom and gloom with United regardless. Like they've got lower points per game as Derby did when they got relegated with 11 points. So I think it could be turmoil for them if they don't win. And weirdly enough, I was thinking about this earlier, as I still think we're technically underdogs in both games. So I was comparing the Champions League final to this game. The difference this time around, obviously, is we're a lot closer and level at the moment with United than we were with Liverpool at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
And even though we were the underdogs against Liverpool, there still wasn't a crazy amount of pressure for them because they were already such a good team. The difference is we're underdogs against United now, and we've beaten them 3 times this year, and they haven't beaten us since 2022, and they've looked just as bad as us. So I'd argue the pressure is all on them, really, to live up to this Man United stature, to live up to the fact that, no, we should be better than Spurs. We should just be in Champions League regardless. So in my opinion, the pressure's on them to be able to beat us more than it is for us to win this trophy. But it's obviously still huge for us as well. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, of course.
Still a lot of pressure on us, but I think it's more on them than it is on us.
Yeah, I mean, David, you said in so many of your opening points there in regards to, how big this is for Tottenham. I mean, I wondered, is it almost a sliding doors moment? We know, obviously, of course, we've got Vinay Venkatesham coming in the summer. Obviously, he's going to be making some of his own decisions when it comes to what Tottenham are going to look like at board level and, dare we say, what they'll do down the manager route. But the reality is that when you look at the impact it can have for the football club, you touched on it in terms of the transfer window. You touched on it in terms of players coming and going. We know how big that Liverpool game was for us 6 years ago in terms of if Tottenham won the Champions League, what it would have done for us as a fan base, what it would have done for everyone at the club, Pochettino and the players. Is there a feeling, given what we've gone through this season, that we all as a fan base just need this trophy? We need to get this monkey off our backs and also give us some really hope for the future, because I think that's been one of the biggest things this season. We've had disappointment after disappointment. This is a real chance to have something to really hold on to and hopefully, fingers crossed, be a better future for the football club and the fans as well, Dave. Let's bring Dave in. Tough question. Can't blame yourself. I want to stay on mute for that. Dave, let's bring you in.
Look, the way I see it, Ricky, is my whole lifetime, I've had the opinion that everybody hates Tottenham. Everybody waits to make us a mean, to laugh at us and stuff like that. This will be a time to just stick one to them and say, now let's see how you react. Find someone new to pick on. It's almost to the point where I heard it out in the Croatian league there a couple of weeks ago during the game. Spurs get battered everywhere they go. On the darts, everything else, it's becoming embarrassing. And the longer this goes on, the more pressure it puts on absolutely everybody at the club. The more, more frustrations within the fan base as well, giving everybody a shorter leash every time they come here because the demand for success, because we just want to get that monkey off our back. Now's the time to do it. I think there's a few differences between now and 2019. 2019, I think there was a lot of emotion based in that run. It was a squad that had so much heartbreak, so many near misses that it almost felt like that was their last chance to really get over the line together. Whereas this is a squad going into it, no emotion attached whatsoever. They're just out to prove people wrong. All the naysayers who said they couldn't do it, they're out there to prove a point. And I think the motivation heading into this final is different. I also think the fact that with Pochettino. Now, my dad said one thing to me after the semi-final, and to be honest, at the time, I thought a bit harsh, bit negative. But he said to me, Dave, Pochettino crying, we're not going to get over the line. We need a manager that detaches all that emotion and all that weight away from the final. You know, he's not going to be able to do that. It's going to be built up as a big emotional affair, and it's going to be too much for us on the night. I think this time around, I think the fact that Postecoglou has had experience of winning league titles, winning cups with Celtic, let's not forget there is expectation and demand there as well. I think he'll know how to navigate heading into this final in terms of the media and what's being said and stuff like that. So there's not that big, massive emotional weight of everybody, everybody's expectations on this football club. But, one thing I will say is it's 41 years. 41 years since we last delivered a European trophy. If my maths is correct, if it's not, I failed maths in school, so please do forgive me. But, 41 years since we've last won a European trophy. My dad has great recollections of that night. He sits there, he tells me about it. That's what got me into Tottenham. I was robbed in 2019 of having that great moment with him. And hopefully this is my moment this time around, because I just feel like we all deserve it. We go through so much heartbreak, so much pain supporting this team. We deserve to get over the line. We deserve what them Palace fans had the other day. You see people wrapping their arms around each other, grown men crying. We all need that release. And all the emotion in the last 6 years will all just come out of us. But look, I think United are there for taking. We pumped them 3 times already this season. They're a team of that sort of rely on individual moments. We're a team that, despite what people think, they're together in that camp. Them and Postecoglou, they're together. So basically, it's a final where is the sum of all its parts greater than individuals. And I think this could be the case where we can actually take United, because that dressing room isn't together. That manager doesn't want half of them players, whereas our manager does want them, want a lot of our players. When he's never asked about players leaving or saying he wants players gone, this, that, and the other. And he also comes out and protects a lot of them. And I think there's going to be a feeling in the camp, let's do this for him and for us. So for me, I think, I'm not scared. I'm not afraid of Man United coming into this game. Don't get me wrong. Bruno Fernandes on his day can step up. Maguire, problem, from set pieces. I think we've conceded some of the most in the English Premier League from set pieces and stuff. There are threats there. But if we go out there and approach it the way we did Bodo Glimt, the way we did Frankfurt away, where not many people gave us a hope in hell, I think we can get over the line. But also, last thing, I do see some Spurs fans maybe dismissing the Europa League to a degree. Oh, look at the teams we've played along the way. But what I will say to Spurs fans that are maybe feeling like that, it's not taken for granted. Under Jose Mourinho, we got knocked out by Zagreb. It's not that easy to get to Europa League final. In the Europa Conference League, which people say is even easier, we got dumped out of the group stages as well. We've been dumped out of these competitions even when we've tried. So let's not take for granted that we are here. We deserve to be in this final. Make no mistake about it. But I almost feel like in the UK in general, people that support the Premier League, there's almost this dismissive nature of the Europa League. If they just revert the name back to the UEFA Cup, everybody, because of the prestige and the history surrounding Tottenham winning it before, everybody would be back all over it. We all ask for trophies. This is the demands we place on the chairman. This is the demands we place on the manager. This is the demands we place on the players. So if they get over the line, I think everybody deserves massive credit for it.
It's interesting, Jace, come over to you again, Dave. So many valid points that you make that I think, Jace, you'll remember. I don't want to age you too much there, but am I right in saying that, and I'll just mute you and bring you back in, that I think at the time in 1984, certain parallels, you had Keith's future actually quite uncertain at the time. I think you had, obviously, we lost Perryman, and you'll tell me also, I think Ray Clemens also went down. When you look at the players that we lost in kind of similar fashion, when you look at key players for Tottenham to this current run that we've been on this season and what's happened with regards to the manager, that was also quite an interesting year when you consider the two parallels. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, Ray Clements was a massive one, because that thrust Tony Parks in the spotlight, and who became the hero. So as Andrew's alluded to, opportunities come with the injuries we've got for people to really step out of the shadows and say, right, I'm gonna own this final. And we've wanted players to stand up. It's a great chance for Dominic Solanke. It's a brilliant chance for Sonny. It's Brennan Johnson, back post Brennan. What an opportunity for him to. He was given lots of criticism at the start of the season that he doesn't score in the games that matters, and as the season's gone on, there's been a little bit less of that noise. But we've talked about his performances a lot. What an opportunity for him. There are big parallels, but for me, I think another difference in the approach is I've heard Manchester United talking about what it would mean to Manchester United, the knock-on effects. I've heard Tottenham talking about needing to win the trophy. You know, Ange hasn't talked about getting Champions League football next year, what it means for contracts, what it means for players, who we can attract to the club. It's been about win the trophy. And I think one of the biggest problems I've had with Tottenham for many, many years, when we're going well, we get ahead of ourselves. And this time we're not getting ahead of it. It's focus on winning the trophy. It's the 90 minutes. Forget the millions that comes with it. Forget the Champions League places. Forget all the knock-on effects into next season, what it means for the manager, what it doesn't mean, how many players we can bring in. It is about winning that trophy at 10 o'clock or 10:15 or whatever it is on Wednesday night, lifting that piece of, and it's not silverware, is it? Is it gold or silver? I can't remember now. Is it? No, it is silverware. It is silverware.
It is definitely silverware. It is
silver. And it is just lifting that trophy, and then what comes with it can then take care of itself. But don't look at the prize of next season before you get to 10 o'clock on Wednesday night. That's the important thing. Just lift that trophy.
In a perverse way, Jace, is it almost a good thing that for Ange, the singular focus in recent weeks has just been the Europa League final, because of, we know the attachments around his future and what it means either way, but the fact that that has been the sole priority of, it fills the group and the manager.
Yeah, whether it's been right or wrong, that's the way the season has become. You know, I made the joke, didn't I? I remember sitting there when we lost at Everton, that we could lose every game between then and the end of the season and we still wouldn't get relegated, when everyone was talking about us being, we're so close to the relegation zone. And actually, we could have lost every single game since Everton and we'd still be in front of those three. So, you know, so many games have had no jeopardy on. It's just been, it's watching us in the league. It's like, you feel so much apathy, don't you? You don't care. It's almost gone beyond caring what happens. But the whole group has been tuned into Europa League football, and so far they've delivered, and that's all you can do. But you know, the big thing is, if we do win it and we have that trophy parade, will we be calling these players legends of the club? Will we be, you know, singing their names, or will we be saying on that trophy parade, yeah, but you've lost 20 league games? Nobody will care about those 20 league games. They just won't care. They won't care that we didn't turn up at Wolves and Fulham and Villas and places like that. It will be on the days that really mattered for us this season, at the start of the season, win a trophy, get Champions League football, and we'll have both. So, you know, there'll be no asterisk on the pictures. Yeah, we won the trophy, but this group lost 20 league games. And those players will know that however much they've stunk the league season out, they go down in history as trophy winners for a club that badly, badly needs a trophy.
Yeah. Do you agree, Jace? A lot of comments here, live comments saying this one has so similarities to 1984, but we hope a win will be easier than that night.
Yeah, but, you know, so be it. If it ends up going to penalties, I don't think Tottenham ever do it the easy way, do they? They never, ever do it the easy way. So if it goes to penalties, it goes to penalties. Just win that game. However you win it, win that game. And we're perhaps due a little bit of, I mean, you see it yesterday with Palace. You do need a little bit of luck to go your way in a final. They got a massive decision go their way. We had a massive decision go against us against Liverpool. And in so many finals, it has gone against us. But, you know, Jonathan Woodgate, it punches it against his head, it goes in. You do need just that little bit of luck on a final, and it's time we had it. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. Look, we're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners and audio. I said we're going to hear from some of the players that have played a pivotal part in our run to, of course, this Europa League final. Let's hear from one of Spurs' leadership group, Guillermo Vicario, on just how big this Europa League final is for Tottenham. And we'll be back in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Let's hear from Guillermo Vicario.
Very easy to say and very fair to say. Poor in the league and amazing in the cup, and of course you want always to be at the top of everything, and sometimes to dealing with 3 games in a week is tough, but we know that our performances during the Premier League campaign hasn't been good enough. It's easy to say, and the table said that, and we are very disappointed for that. But now we have the opportunity to create history for this football club on May the 21st, and we want to be ready for that game.
There's a huge prize, isn't there, on offer? You think to yourself, not only winning the trophy, but also that place in the Champions League. Just how much does it mean to you and the team?
Yeah, it means everything, but it's a game of football where we can have the opportunity to lift the trophy that will mean a lot for this football club, will mean a lot for us players, and it will mean a lot for our fans that they've always tried to be behind us and supporting us, also the toughest moment of the season, and we want to deliver and gifted them with a big night in BILBAO.
Does it help that you know Manchester United so well, or will they think similar things?
Yeah, to be fair, we need to be able to cancel and to eliminate what has been the past, what has been the games during the season against them. It's just about focusing from now until the next 10 days and get ready and prepare to play a final.
A lot of the players in the squad, they probably, this potentially could be the first big piece of silverware that they've won, first trophy that they've won. So how important is it for a player to actually get a big trophy in your locker, getting that first one?
Yeah, of course the importance is massive. Now we are at the last step, at the last stage of this competition, and we know which is the importance of this game for, like I said, for everyone involved with this football club. So we can create history for this football club, for us as players, for the fans, for everyone has very pride and love for this club.
How much do the players want to win it for Ange as well after the season? His comments about the second season trophy, winning trophies the second season.
Yeah, I think he is the first that wants to win this trophy. He has always been saying to us that this group could go through this competition and play this final, and we reached that. So now we have to be very pleased about that and trying to do the final step altogether.
So there you go. Those were the thoughts of Guillermo Ricario, who has made it very, very clear. The group have been focusing on us from day one. It's been a target of Ange Postecoglou's. I also spoke about defending the manager and wanting to win the trophy for him. It does just feel, guys, if you agree. I mean, I'll come to you, Dave. The minute those words left Ange Postecoglou's mouth, I mean, I'm trying to remember what game it was after where he said, I always win a trophy in my second season. You just knew at that point, you just thought, no. You just knew from that moment that was going to be an ongoing meme for a lot of the season. And look, to be fair to Ange, I mean, what you would just say is he's just not shied away from that, has he? The fact that he does have great confidence in himself in finals, that he will get over the line. And he spoke a lot about coming from, obviously, not only just being the first Australian manager to reach a UEFA final, but also a Greek manager as well. It's, two countries, of all due respect, when you look at football in terms, that haven't always won trophies. Jason, I can feel you want to come in over David for a second. What do you want to say there, Jason? I can see you biting to come in.
Yeah, I've never understood quite the drama around it, because he gave a factual answer. He has always won in his second season. I don't know why it rattled everyone. Was he supposed to lie about it? He said a factual answer to a question. I always win things in my second season. He didn't say, I always win things and we are definitely going to win a trophy this season, which has been interpreted as. He said, I always win things in my second season, which is 100% correct.
I think, I don't know if you agree, Dave, I just think it's the point that it was said at a club at Tottenham that Tottenham as a football club, unfortunately, don't have a rich history of winning trophies. Is that where you feel maybe why many have got so, why it's been such an ongoing theme throughout this season, every time we have exited, with all due respect, a cup competition, FA Cup, League Cup?
Look, one thing I will say is I think Postecoglou has invited this whole pressure on himself from the very beginning. It's actually a pressure that he's come in here and embraced rather than sort of, batted away at times, because even last season, he was hammering at the media. Stop talking about top four. Start talking about competing. It's what I'm here to do. It's what the Tottenham fans expect of this football club. If we're not in the name of winning trophies, then what are we here for? He's invited this on ever since he's been here, and he's embraced it and slowly starting to tell the players, showing them, you have to start embracing this pressure. It's actually, the pressure is a privilege. It's not something that you should shy away from. It's great privilege having this sort of pressure. And I think fair play to him, Look, when he made the comment he did about, I always win in my second season. Look, it is factual, Spurs fans, we don't like hearing, managers, what they've done at other clubs. Jose Mourinho came here with a CV, Conte did as well. We don't like hearing about, we almost get butthurt. And I just think when a manager almost talks about winning trophies at Tottenham, none of the media believe him or anybody from outside Tottenham in the bubble, but neither do most of our fan base. That's just the reality of it, because we are so used to being the brides or the bridesmaid, never the bride. That's just the harsh truth of it. My whole lifetime, even when we've got close, we've always just been nearly men. We've never really been doers and getting over the line and stuff like that. So the reality is that invites more pressure. Look, when Jose Mourinho walked in at Chelsea and said, I'm the special one, most people laughed at him. But the reality is, if you back it up with a trophy, that's where the narrative, that's where the narrative changes very, very quickly around it. If he gets over the line, that's going to be clipped up everywhere. Everyone's going to be going, how cold was that? He's predicted it. He was going to do it. Everything else. That's the coldest thing anyone could do. And especially at Tottenham Hotspur, the narrative starts to change very, very quickly. If he gets over the line, all of a sudden the media start talking more nicely about him, start looking into things a bit more at Tottenham Hotspur and looking where things are beyond his problem. Same with fan base and everything else. Everybody follows. And I think the narrative will change very, very quickly. But look, regardless of what people think about Postecoglou, before he arrived here, people were sick of managers almost looking down at Tottenham Hotspur, saying we're never going to win for this reason, for that reason. Then we get a guy that walks in and says, no, hang on, we can win. All of a sudden he gets ridiculed. The reality is, everyone's just at the point. No one knows how to do it or what's right, what's wrong anymore. We just need someone to guide us over the line, and then we can pick it up from there. That's all we need. But the reality is, he has embraced it, and whether you like the guy or not, I think that needs to be applauded. He has put the pressure on the football club, and if he delivers Wednesday, my God, I can't wait to see what he does. I hope he actually uses the moment to clap back at the media and some of the skeptics, some of our rivals, rather than the fan base. Because I know in times before, he saw it with the Year Cup at Chelsea, he's clapped back with the fans, and it's not a good relationship. But he can amend all that if he delivers and uses the press to have a pop at everybody that's written Tottenham off.
I have to say, football fans, we are like no other, right? We know how much one result can change a lot of fans' mood. And I'm going to come on to that to close the show, actually, on that point. But I do want to talk about where we are in terms of the midfield dilemma that maybe Spurs are facing. But, George, one thing I do want to bring up, because I think you were one that did bring this up on X, actually, a few weeks ago, is that when we do have that back five in place of, as we know, one of that leadership group in Vicario that's been so pivotal to Tottenham, when you've got, of course, Mickey van der Ven, Christian Romero, Destiny Udogie, Pedro Porro. I think Spurs have, only, you might tell me I'm wrong here, George, the stat. I think we have only lost 15% of games when we've had that back five in. And I think, the stats have been quite good. I think you might have them better than me in terms of that back four, back five. Just how important has that back four, back five been to Ange getting the results in the European, let's say, competition? Because I know, again, Premier League, some have argued the fact when you look at that back five, Premier League-wise, they've not been up against the greatest teams, but Europe-wise, that definitely has worked for Tottenham in the latter stages of this competition.
Yeah, so I can't remember what the exact numbers were, but basically I was trying to research it, and the only stats I could find was from February of this year, and that was based off of Premier League alone. That I couldn't find anything about all competitions with them at the time. So then what I did is I took that, and then I literally went in every fixture after that until now of when they all started together, and sort of added those games onto it. And I'm pretty certain from those put together, it was something like out of 18 games, it was only 2 or 3 defeats. And there was maybe like 3 draws and the rest of them were wins. So the idea with the picture was that with those 5, let's say, in the back line, if you include Vicario, we are just a much more solid team. And I think you've seen that in the semi-finals and the quarterfinals with them involved. I think the moment they got their injuries early, and I've said this on the show months ago, is as much as some of the results didn't go our way at the very start of the season. Obviously, you talk about the Leicester draw, the Newcastle loss. We did batter these teams. We did play so much better than we did in previous, especially against like Newcastle, for example, the year before. We just couldn't get the goals over the line. We were playing the game better.
I agree. In that first month,
didn't get the results, unfortunately.
Yep.
And that was with the same back line, and they were doing well. Then Destiny Udogie got injured. Then you got, I think, Romero van der Ven then got injured, and it's sort of all capitulated back then. But yeah, the idea is just we are more solid with them, and I think they've shown that in the Europa League towards the end of this campaign. And we've got to remember as well, how many? I think we've only had, 2 losses in the Europa League? Was it AZ Alkmaar away in the knockouts and Galatasaray in the league phase? Galatasaray, we started Will Lancashire up front, and he got sent off. Like, people forget that during that sort of league phase period, we were rotating quite a fair bit. It was only until the latter stages that we actually really properly started implementing our first
Those
team.
are the only 2 defeats. I'll say scored 27, conceded 13, won 9, drawn 3, lost 2. Those are the only 2. Yep.
And of course, it doesn't make it right with the defeats. You still expect to beat these teams, but it just does go to show that we are way more defensively solid when we've got that back 5 effectively in place. So look, let's just make sure that nothing surprising comes up. But yeah, let's just say I'm far more confident now that all 5 of those are sort of back and then match fit as well. Because that was the problem with Udogie. I think when he started coming back, he was still on the bench for a bit because that was the period that Spence was doing really well. And you kind of had to ease him back into it. But I think Udogie, for me especially, is the one that really has, like, in the last few games, has shown how important he is when he is performing well and is fit. So yeah, I think we've got a much better chance with those 5 there.
Yep. I mean, interesting as we know, when we look back at that, obviously Villa selection, whilst obviously Spurs named Bentancur on the bench, we saw Van der Ven, Romero, and Udogie not even travelling to Villa Park. What that does mean is that I think when that final comes around, it would have meant that obviously for Van der Ven and Romero together, they wouldn't have played any football for a fortnight. I mean, I just wonder on that point, Jason, there's no doubt about it that the injury to Decky is really, I think, in Andy's mind, just kind of thought to himself, look, I just can't afford now any other risks. And it does mean that it's a choice of fitness or over consistency. The reality is now that he's just chosen to have these guys fit over consistency. Is that right in your mind? Would you have liked to have seen Mickey Van der Ven, Christian Romero play any kind of minutes before they're thrusted into a Europa League final?
Between Bodo and the final, no, 2 weeks. You know, I mean, you can go 2 weeks in an international break. If one of, you know, we have players. We have the odd player that doesn't go on international duty that goes 2 weeks between the last Premier League game and then you have an international break and they come back. Lucas Bergvall earlier in the season would have gone 2 weeks without a game and things like that. So 2 weeks is slightly different. Had it been a month, that's more of a problem. I think the last Champions League final, we all went 3 weeks and it was every single player went 3 weeks. But in fact, I mean, you know, Liverpool's did as well. But, you know, those two at the back are so integral, as is Dominic Solanke, that I don't think you could risk them at this stage. And, you know, that Palace game, it was just a killer. Of all the players that we left out, it's one that we didn't, in Kulu, that we're trying to get up to speed, that picks up the injury. So that's the one worry, I suppose, is I think we can all see the midfield's going to be Sarr, Bissouma, Rodrigo, Bentancur. I'm not so worried about that as the starting lineup, but it's if the game needs something different, if it goes into extra time, it's, you know, you're asking those players who comes in the event that one of them gets a knock, or that you just need fresh legs into midfield. So I think it is important to try and get it done in 90 minutes whilst those 3 have still got legs, because if it does go extra, you're asking all 3 of them to put in a hell of a shift then of closing people down and shuffling from side to side and without being able to rotate any of them. That's the slight worry in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, just on Bergvall, you brought him up there, Jason. Andrew was asked about Bergvall because there were rumours circulating that he had made a miraculous recovery to train earlier in the week. Postecoglou clarified the situation and said, look, it's still the same sort of time frame. It was never a long-term one, but he has literally just got out of a boot and taken his first tentative steps on the grass, but he won't be available. Now, interestingly, since that interview from Ange Postecoglou after that game, we understand that Lucas Bergvall was part of the media day for the Europa League final. Maddison, Kulusevski and Dragoshin were some who didn't take part in it. So it does potentially suggest Bergvall may make part of the final, although Dane Scarlett was also pictured also in the Europa League media day, and he's only just had recent surgery. So I know, look, there's different ways you look at this, Dave. I mean, I wouldn't imagine, even if Bergvall, was deemed to be fit, he would start the game. But are you quietly confident that Postecoglou just doesn't want to put anything out there, Dave, to, I don't know, with our injury record at the moment, suggest that it wouldn't happen? Can you see as an outside chance of Bergvall being available to feature rather than maybe start the game?
Yeah, I think there's always an outside chance if the player is willing to try and get back into him. And I think that's clearly from Bergvall's point of view. He wants to try and make that effort, maybe push through the pain barrier to try and make it. But it still doesn't mean he's going to be fit enough to be able to start that game or be able to put in maximum 100% effort. I think that's a call that Postecoglou's going to have to decide. I would hazard it, even if he does make it, you might see him off the bench, but I don't think he'll be anywhere near sort of fit enough to start. But fair play to the kid. I mean, I'd love to see more players have that hunger and that desire to try and get back from injury. Sometimes at Tottenham, our players take too long to come back. So fair play to the kid, and I think massive respect. He's already got that sort of mentality at 18 years of age. He already understands. 19 years of age. He might never, ever see another Europa League final again. These don't come around all this time, and he's desire and hunger to get back fit. I think he might just make the squad, but like I said, I don't think he'll start. Just on Romero and Van de Ven in the game time, though, quickly, I think my only problem coming into it, because, look, it's one of them. If Postecoglou plays them and they get injured, everyone will be mourning that he didn't rest them, right? It's sort of, it really doesn't matter what Ange does right now or what calls he makes. People are going to say the opposite. But I think the only where I'm worried is the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. Not playing for 2 weeks. You can be a little bit slack, a little bit lackadaisy, take a couple of minutes to sort of get your wits about you, get that feel of the ball again and stuff like that. So I think, that would be my only nervousness coming into the game is the first 10 minutes, making sure that they're ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to, on this point, George, come over to you. When you look at this kind of midfield dilemma that we've got right now, Jason said it there, by the fact if we are going to start the likes, as we know, of what is led to believe the case, Bissouma, Bentancur, Sarr, it does leave you very little in terms of then what you bring off the bench from a creativity perspective into midfield. There's been suggestions that maybe we might see Pedro Porro play a more far advanced position. There's been suggestions that maybe we drop Sonny into the number 10, Solanke into the number 10, Richarlison then comes into the side. How do you see that working for Tottenham in terms of dealing with this kind of dilemma they have in midfield and further up the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, look, it all depends on what Sarr's situation is in regards to his sort of back injury that he picked up against Villa. If he's not 100% fit, then I wouldn't start him. I would rather go for a situation where you're playing probably Richie and Solanke, and you kind of have that Solanke in that 10 role. He has said before when being interviewed for England that he's done that role in the past, and I'd much rather sort of Solanke. And to be fair to him, he actually kind of does that a few times during the games anyway, which is probably why he hasn't got as many goals as he would have liked this season. He's kind of serviced the wingers more with his positioning. But I think with a team like Man United, we're going to need some relentless pressing. I think that's the most important thing because they fold under pressure big time. They have done all season the moment you press their back 3, 5, whatever you want to call them. So I think that's something that Richie is really good at. He doesn't have the legs to sort of be the midfield runner. You'd rather have Solanke help out a bit deeper, but he's good at that. And to be fair to Sarr, he would have been good for that as well if he was fully fit. But if you've got the likes of Solanke pressing, Richie pressing, sort of Sonny if he starts and Johnson, I think that sort of front four, as you'd like, could really put them under a lot of pressure and cause them to make a lot of mistakes. So I wouldn't mind sort of approaching the game like that. And in regards to Porro as well, what I love from him and what I think his best attributes are is when he whips in those crosses from that sort of half space, entering into the second half. He did it against Palace, to be fair, when he put a beautiful ball into the back post where Sarr didn't even hit the target. I don't know how he put it on a plate for him in the 6-yard box. I want to see him create more like that because again, that's been a problem for United this season. I've seen so many complaints from United about how the fact that they have a back five, yet somehow they're still leaving the back post free. That is Brennan Johnson territory if I've ever heard it myself. So they do have vulnerabilities. And I think a lot of that will stem from pressing them hard from that front four and letting them make mistakes. And I think having people like Richie involved in that, Solanke involved in that, I think that could really work.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of suggestions of what Spurs maybe should or shouldn't feel when it comes to the team. I know this has kind of been what a lot of people have had doing the rounds on X, and I read it out for this as an audio. There's been suggestions that we have obviously our back five that many are expecting: Vicario in goal, Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, and Doggy. Then you're going to have that enforcement of Basuma and Bentancur as Tottenham's almost, you'd say, midfielding forces there, and you've then got the forward line of Johnson on the right, Solanke as a number 10 with Son operating on the left, and then you've got Richarlison up top. I mean, Jason, like I said, there's been a lot of suggestions over whether it should be a 4-4-2, a 4-2-3-1, a back three, a 4-3-3. Do you have a sort of feeling or preference as to how you'd like to see Spurs line up for this one, in your opinion?
Looking at that, I don't know. I still prefer Dom to be as the 9, dropping deep a little bit, but being the focal point as the 9 rather than Richie. And if I was going to play Richie, I'd play him where Sonny is. So on the left, I'd still sooner as perhaps go 4-3-3. But you know, sometimes you're dictated to by what's available to you, isn't it? It was interesting to see Odegaard play almost as the 10 at Villa a couple of times and play a little bit more centrally. So it's a question of, I think you can get caught up so much in the tactical side and the formation side. It's about players performing on the day, not making stupid mistakes, particularly defensively. No sloppy things, no silly fouls around the edge of the box, letting Bruno take free kicks and things like that. I think that's more the tactical side I'm more bothered about. And because United can see goals, and I think we'll score goals whichever we go 4-2-3-1 or 3-3. So it's for me, it's the key part of it is avoiding the sloppy mistakes that we've traditionally made in so many big games.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important point. Roy Keane has actually said, on that point you said there, Jay, said, look, you still have to fancy United in this final. Someone like Bruno, as you've mentioned, can produce that bit of moment, and the history of Man United still carries a little bit of weight. There's not much between them in the league, but come the crunch, come the final, United's history in finals, then winning cups the last few years, you'd think they would have a bit more knowledge around the game than Spurs, and that might edge it for them. And I think Bruno can produce that bit of magic. Just on that point, Jason, I just don't know if you agree here. Does it favour United at all, the fact they've already been to Bilbao, they've already got a sense of what the atmosphere is like there? Does that pay any kind of advantage to them at all in this game? And the fact, again, we talk about the fact that United are used to being on the bigger stages, cup finals, a lot of those players have won trophies. Does that count for anything when it comes to having that little bit of a psychological advantage over Spurs, despite the fact that we have beaten them 3 times this season?
Yeah, maybe a little bit that they've gone to Bilbao and performed well, so they know they can go and do it. And I think somebody said earlier they haven't actually lost a Europa League game this season.
No, they're unbeaten in Europa League. They are unbeaten.
They're unbeaten. So they'll look back at the Manchester City final last year with a little bit of confidence. But it's what you do on the day. There's enough of our players. Romero's won a World Cup, hasn't he? So it's time to park everything in the past and just concentrate on what's in front of you. I think you can get too caught up in what's happened in the past or what might happen in the future. Just focus on those 90 minutes. Be switched on. Be concentrated. Whether they've won in Bilbao or not doesn't affect whether Pedro Porro hits a 40-yard diagonal onto Dominic Solanke's foot, does it? So don't take too much. Don't get distracted by everything around you. Just focus fully on what you're doing as individuals on the day, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I do agree. Look, we are going to go for our next break of the show. For listeners on audio, we're going to hear next from what we are hoping is going to be part of Spurs' back four and part of a really important back two in Mickey van der Ven that has spoken to the press. When we come back, we'll be discussing how big a funnel this is for Heung-Min Son, who says he's absolutely desperate to lead Tottenham to European glory in Bilbao and complete the missing final piece of his career at the club. That's to come. Let's hear quickly from Mickey van der Ven on how big this final is, his first for Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
For Tottenham to look forward to and such a huge prize at the end.
Yeah, massive game for the club, for the fans, for us. I would say we're one game away from a trophy.
And how big is it to, or how easy is it to play the match rather than the whole sort of situation? Because getting to finals, you've done so well to get there, but now you've got to obviously do the biggest thing and win it.
of course, we played unbelievable games to reach the final. We did really well to reach the final. But what you say, yeah, it's one game away from the trophy, and you also want to win the trophy at the end, because I would say you had an unbelievable. Imagine you have an unbelievable, but you lose the final. No one is going to talk about how you reach the final. So yeah, of course, we want to win it, and it's going to be difficult, but we're going to do everything for it.
Can you do it?
Yeah, we can do it.
How do you imagine the next week's going to pan out? How different will it feel? Like, you know, the build-up to this game.
I think the build-up will quite be the same, to be honest. But of course, the feeling is different because it's a final. So yeah, the feeling towards it will be difficult. But I think everything else will be the same.
And the fact that you've played United 3 times this season, you've actually beaten them 3 times. Does that? How much of an advantage is that, or does that not count on the day?
I wouldn't say it's an advantage because it's games in the past. So this is a game and it's a final, and I know in a final everything can happen. So yeah, what you say, we won 3 times against them. So hopefully we can do the same thing for the final.
Mickey, can you give us an insight with regards to the togetherness in the camp? There's been a big narrative regarding the manager and the manager's future, but particularly in the last 2 games in the Europa League, you've celebrated together on the pitch and obviously in the changing rooms, and there seems to be that big connection between yourselves and the manager.
It's just the gaffer made sure that we stayed all together every time. It has been a tough season for us. Everybody was doubting us, and now we proved them wrong that we reached the final. And the gaffer kept believing in us every time, over and over again, and he made sure we stayed together. So you can see that even off the pitch and on the pitch that we are a really tight group, and we want to make sure that we can bring this trophy home.
What is it about what's Ange been saying to you guys through the season to keep the spirits up? We saw a bit of it in the dressing room after the match on Thursday, didn't we?
It just has been a tough season. So if you lose a game, everybody is a bit down, and he just made sure. Of course, he said every time what we did wrong, and every time when we played bad, he was the one that told us, yeah, guys, you played really bad yesterday. But he kept also pushing us every time because he knows what we can do together, and he kept us believing, and he just held us together. And I think that has been really important.
Is he the right man to kind of end this mini trophy drought at Tottenham, get you over the line?
Yeah, he can be the man that brings us the first trophy, the trophy in many years. Yeah.
If you do it, obviously, that will be an incredible achievement for this season. But what will it mean for this football club, for next season and the season after? The fact that they can deliver a trophy.
Spurs, of course, is a massive club, and we haven't won a trophy for a long time. So if we can change that, that will be something unbelievable for the fans and for the club also. And you will play Champions League next year. You will play in the European tournament next year. So it's a big achievement from the team, and it's also a big thing for the club, I would say.
It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, for those that are kind of listening to a lot of these player interviews, the one common thing that is coming across is just how much they do want to win it for Ange Postecoglou, win it as a group. And, again, we're going to finish on a very small chat on Ange Postecoglou. I think, as I've said, this week coming up to the final, I think we are constantly now trying to park Premier League and look ahead to what we know is a massive, massive week for this football club and a massive, massive week for a lot of these players. And I think a player that, as we know, has got a huge amount of affection in the Spurs fan base. And of course, he says he will not be a legend at the club until he wins a trophy, is Heung-Min Son. And again, I mentioned that before we went for the break there, that he feels winning a trophy will complete the final piece of his career at the club, which is currently missing. He said, this is the reason we talk about for years why I've stayed at Tottenham, because I wanted to do something others couldn't achieve. You need all the pieces to complete the puzzle. I think I've gathered all of the other pieces now to make that puzzle complete. It does feel different this time around. I really want to win more than anyone else. I think so many people are still supporting us with the same desperate passion I feel. And if we prepare well, I believe we can achieve it. Now, Ange was asked after the Villa game on Son's overall fitness, and he said, look, he's available. He started against Villa, and you could see he opened up a couple of times. I think he's feeling it's about as much as Sonny feels himself that he's getting back into that room. But I think we saw against Villa, there were some moments where he showed us his quality. And I mean, just on this point now, I mean, this is a big decision Ange Postecoglou has to make in under 72 hours for people that are listening back to this show. Dave, do you back Ange? Because I think the good thing about Ange is there won't be a sentimental case for Ange Postecoglou, given how big this final is for him. We spoke about that earlier, the fact that he's the first Australian Greek manager to reach a UEFA final. Is that a good thing in a way? There won't be that sentiment there to maybe like it was with Pochettino around Harry Kane, where he felt maybe he had to start Harry. With Son, it will feel a decision where it's for the best interest of the team to get the result.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's going to be that personal attachment that Pochettino had to Harry Kane, but I don't think Pochettino made that decision on Harry Kane based on, personal attachment. I think he made it on based if a chance falls to anybody, who's going to take it? Half fit Harry Kane or, fully fit Lucas Moura. And I know Lucas Moura scored a hat-trick in the Champions League final, but he was pretty wasteful with a lot of chances in general in his time at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think that's what Pochettino based his decision on. I think that's what most managers would base their decision on. I think that's what Postecoglou's going to base his decision on, here when it comes to Son. If anybody in this front line is going to step up in the moment when the chance to present itself, who do I think is going to take that? And I think he will always revert back to Son. Look, I get the criticism around Son this year. I get that maybe he's lost a half yard of pace. I also take into account, against Aston Villa, he looked bright, but he didn't look confident in his decision making. That final ball or that final shot, that final cross, it wasn't there. But he offers a lot more down the left hand side than anybody else has. A lot of people have had their opportunities, and have they really took it? That's why we're still sitting here having this debate now, because not one of them have stood up and took their opportunity. So it always leaves that door open for Son. And I'm not being funny, but if I'm in Postecoglou's shoes, I'm picking Son. Regardless of what people think of his ability this year, he's still our only world-class player, genuine world-class player at this football club, our best player in the forward line, our most devastating player in the forward line. He's still got 11 goals, 11 assists across the campaign. Yes, it's off previous numbers that he set in years gone by, but it's still a pretty good return. And for me, I think factoring all of that in, I think he's got to play.
It's interesting. Again, you look back at those stats, Dave, you mentioned overall 173 goals, George, in 4-5-2 appearances across 10 seasons. Is it a big decision, George, for you? I mean, for Ange, when you look at now the options, the fact that we know Sarr's a doubt, you're out with Kulusevski, Maddison, as we know, again, is going to be out. Bergvall, you feel, probably isn't going to start. Again, Son's not a midfielder, but it does give Ange a decision to make in terms of the way he tactically sets up the team. If you're Ange Postecoglou, are you starting Heung-Min Son in this final?
I think he has to now at this point. And I know we spoke about it a bit earlier in the week, but I was very apprehensive about playing both Son and Johnson in the same lineup, just because my fears around playing both of them is their ability to sort of unlock defenses if we were to have more possession in the game, for example. But I'll be honest with you, that first half from Sonny against Villa, I was actually pleasantly surprised at how he'd return. I thought he would come back looking really lethargic for being out for a while, and especially with how he plays his game. But he got into brilliant opportunities. There were chances where he played it across goal, and I feel like Odebear in the middle wasn't necessarily making the right run, or Mikey Moore, the back post, wasn't making the right run. If that was Solanke, if that was Richarlison, if that was Johnson there, it could be a different outcome. He could have been able to play that pass earlier, and someone maybe been able to tap it in. Some of his shots were fairly close from the sort of edge of the box. Like it looked like it was him just trying to get up to speed again. So I was a bit impressed with him in compared to what I thought he would be like in that half. And I think we're just at that point now where you're in a final, you're going to need to be very physical. And I think that might be an issue that starting someone like Odebear is. And even if we do start an Odebear like we've seen, he's most likely going to be in that 10 position in the middle if he were to play. Yeah. And then the only other option is Tell, who's a player I think who's got a lot of potential, for sure has a lot of potential. But from what we've seen so far, his decision-making when it comes to shooting or making the right pass across the goal has not been there. And when you're sort of presented with an opportunity where you've got Son running for own goal or Tell running for own goal, despite Sonny being offered this season, I still fancy Sonny to finish those chances more than I'd fancy Tell to finish those chances as of right now. So I think he basically has to go with Sonny, and he'll want to galvanize the team as a leader and as a captain to finally get us over that line. And I think, look, there's rumors going around that he might leave this summer anyway, regardless of the 1 year extension and so on and so forth. So I think he's really, really, really motivated to potentially leave on a high as well. So I think he has to go for Sonny.
Yeah, it's such an interesting debate. I mean, Jace, look, he's been involved in two of our recent painful cup defeats to respectively Liverpool in the 2019 Champions League final, the Carabao Cup loss to City at Wembley 4 years ago, where we saw visibly crying on the pitch at the time. You know, he has got that feeling it's different Wednesday showpiece. Do you share the boys' opinion that it feels now with the injuries and the kind of current form of the attackers that we've got forward line that it's kind of almost played into the hands where now Sonny is most likely to start? Do you get that vibe from your perspective?
Yeah, I think so. As the boys said, regardless of whether he's the player that he was 2 or 3 years ago, you still feel that if somebody's going through, that he's the one most likely to score. Although, there was a difference because when he went through early at Villa, it was a similar position to what he scored the winner there a couple of seasons ago, didn't it? When we won, remember when he scored the 3-2 win? I think didn't Bergvall play in that game?
Yeah,
And I think Sonny scored in the dying seconds, but up the other end. It was a very similar opportunity, and this time that day, the really confident Sonny put it away. This one didn't. But you're right. Matisse Tell, Richarlison. It doesn't matter who plays on that side. None of them have really stepped up and shown themselves to be more consistent, more worthy of that place than Sonny. And you're right, Jules. I think was it 11 goals, 11 assists this season. It's not a bad number. It's not a bad, by Sonny's high standards, it's a drop off. But if Richarlison had got 11 and 11, or Matisse Tell had got 11 and 11, we'd be saying go and sign them, go and say, or Wilson Odobert had got 11 goals and 11 assists. We'd be praising them to the hilt, wouldn't we? So the fact that Sonny's done that and he's seen to have had such a disappointing season, yet he still produced those numbers. Sometimes players reach a certain level where they're judged by their real greatness, and if those levels just drop below it, you think they haven't had a great season, but they're still delivering numbers that other people can't deliver. And that's the great, if Mo Salah only scores,
he's been injured more than he has done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if Mo Salah only scores 18 goals next season, people say, "Oh, he's had a terrible season," but you'll think he's still scored 18 Premier League goals. That's the difference. That's the level they're judged on. So yeah, for me, Sonny definitely starts that final. Whether we get 90 minutes out of him, I don't know, but he has to start that final.
Yeah, I mean, go on, Dave. Go for it.
Sorry, even just not even from a goal standpoint, even from a creativity standpoint, you've no Maddison, you've no Kulusevski, you've no Bergvall. Johnson's not known for his creativity. Dominic Solanke's not known for his creativity, and neither is Richarlison. They're known for working hard or arriving in at the right place at the right time, but they're not known for their creativity. So with a lot of our flair players, especially from the midfield being out, that burden now falls on Sonny. That's why he has to start, because if we want to break down United, it's going to come through him. It has to. No one else has proven that they can step up and do that. And with no Maddison and no Kulusevski, it's even more so he has to play.
Yeah, it's a difficult one because, again, I know, look, we can't get away from it. Sonny isn't the same Sonny or 2 3 years ago, but I think when you look at Spurs' options now and the limitations they've got, you just feel that, if Sonny is going to deliver, it would be in this final. Just a very quick round the table question on this. If Tottenham do win the Europa League, and what I'm showing the guys, this is an audio, is Sonny holding up the trophy. Is that the greatest way to bow out, do you think, Dave? I mean, I know we've triggered this option with Sonny's contract, but do you think it won't get better than that? Will it with Sonny? Do you think that would almost see maybe some part ways with the club come the summer?
Yeah, I think I think, to a large degree, Sonny's loyalty to Tottenham hasn't actually really been rewarded, especially from the fans' point of view. Look how quick we've turned on him because he's producing less numbers than what he's done in previous years. But realistically, Harry Kane jumped ship, Christian Eriksen jumped ship, so many other players jumped ship when given the opportunity to go and win silverware to try and get over the line. Sonny didn't. Sonny was the only one out of them all that wanted to stay here and deliver it for the fans. And I think that gets lost in when people factor in, his performances on the football pitch. I think he deserves a lot more respect from us as fans for actually sticking by, even when the ship has been sinking. Harry Kane bailed. This guy is stuck through it, stuck by managers, being a massive in that dressing room. And look, on our best days, it's always him that steps up and delivers over the last few years since Harry Kane is gone. That's give us our greatest height. So for me, I think he deserves a lot of respect. But I just think, look, when he signed that extension, I sort of already thought maybe this is coming to an end, because he actually was allowed to go into January, allowed to speak to other clubs.
Yes,
You know, we left him in that position. It's only his loyalty again that he didn't go and do that, that we're lucky. And I just remember looking at the time, I'm like, okay, but, you know, where's Tottenham rewarding his loyalty for staying on and stuff like that? And they haven't done it. So for me, I think there's a recognition inside the club that, look, he's not that player that he once was. There is a clear decline in the guy, and I think they maybe offered him that contract extension so that they can recoup some value this summer. And I just think if we win the Europa League and Son is the man to lift it, I think he'll go with everybody's blessings, everyone's well wishes, and I think even he can go, do you know what? Take myself out of everything that's been here the last 10 years, the noise, the pressure, the environment, the pressure cooker, and let me just go off and enjoy my last few years of football. And I can go off knowing that I've done what I want to do at Tottenham, which is deliver trophies. And I think, you know, hopefully, you know, it's an amicable departure, you know, both sides. He delivers and we say, look, Sonny, go on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, G, come over to you on that point. Dale's mentioned there. He has described it as the missing piece of the puzzle for his career at Spurs. Do you have that feeling as well that if Son does go on and win it, and he said himself he won't call himself a Spurs legend until he wins a trophy, is that almost the best way to kind of sail into the sunset?
Yeah, I think so as well. Look, it is the missing piece, and it has been for everyone. Like I think we all we can all sit here and wish that Harry Kane was the one that was able to do it as well. But it was just unfortunate that couldn't happen. But Sonny has just been absolutely phenomenal, obviously up until recent times. But for his, let's say, 9 of his 10 years, 8 of his 10 years, he's been a world-class player and had ample opportunity to go to top clubs. Real Madrid was sniffing at one point. He could have easily have gone to Germany. He could have gone to Liverpool. But he loves Spurs. He's Spurs through and through. And I think it would be such a way to finish like a decade at Spurs effectively as like your captain, as to be the one that's finally got us over that massive hurdle of winning a major trophy and being the guy that's done it. So no, I think it's definitely a way. Well, it's 100% a good way to send off if he does decide to leave. The question just remains: would he want to stay to maybe be another year in the Champions League with Spurs? Is it worth that? Is it more better just to leave on the high of we've delivered this, let me move on? That I'm not too sure of, because again, we kind of need the successor for Sonny. I know we've got people through the pipeline, but they're all very sort of young and still up and coming. So there is that to consider. But yeah, I think this would be great for him and everyone, and leave such a legacy. And in my opinion, he's still a legend anyway, because let's be honest, we're starved of trophies in recent decades. So not too many legends can say that they won something. But if you can come out of it with a Europa League trophy, then 100% one of the best in the 21st century. Yeah,
I mean, just before we do go, Jace, for our final break of this show, just have to ask you, Sonny, your touch deep and close roots to Asia. And I know, again, he's got such support over there for what he, again, has had to endure during his time at Tottenham. I know, again, we've picked up a lot of Korean fans that listen and watch this show now, which, again, is testament to the absolute support that this club has got around the world. Do you have a feeling on that for you in terms of Sonny, if he does go on and win that trophy? And obviously, look, writing name to folklore, not only becoming a winner of a trophy at time, but a European trophy as well. Is that almost a perfect ending to what's been an incredible 10 years at Tottenham? He's actually gone for everything when you think about it. And like the boys have said, really, at times where he could have walked away from the club, remained absolutely loyal, where it would have been easier at times to jump ship, Jason.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think from his point of view, it's the perfect time to leave with it on. But I think from the club's point of view, I'm probably the other way around. That I think if we do win it, I'd see more value in keeping him for that last year, because you will have Champions League football, you will have Premier League football. There will be far more opportunities for. I think we're reaching a stage where he's not a guaranteed starter week in, week out, but there'll be enough games where he can still have quite a big input. Whereas if we were to get beat and there's no European football whatsoever, then I think that helps you rebuild. You think, right, now you do have to start a rebuild, and it is time to play Odder Bears and Mikey Moores and things like that. So I think it suits Tottenham if we do win to keep him. But I think, and who's the manager next year? Will a new manager want to come in? Will he want to have Sonny as such a big presence around the club? I don't know, but I hope the decision kind of rests on him. I think he's earned that. It's with the respect that he's got for the club, the respect that the club should have for him. That if he says, I've won the trophy, I want to leave," I'd hope he gets the send off that he deserves. But if he did want to stay, like I say, and we do win a trophy, and he does want to be around next season, I'd have no problem in the club saying, right, let's get that sorted out and make sure you are here next year, because he can still be a big influence on next season for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate, and it's one that will roll on. Look, we're going to squeeze in our final break of the show for our listeners on audio. We know an incoming man at Tottenham in the summer in the form of Vinay Venkatesham, who's going to be Tottenham Hotspur's new CEO. He's on the lookout for new staff to work with. We'll be providing that in the last update and what this next 72 hours may hold for Tottenham fans and God, the debates that might come. We're going to close on that before we do. Let's hear finally from Destiny Adogi and Brennan Johnson, who give us their thoughts of reaching the Europa League final and like to play a big part in, of course, that Europa League final.
It could be my first time, so obviously it's a big achievement and could mean a lot.
And for the club itself, you know, bearing in mind the season's been quite disappointing in many levels, but you know, what would it mean to finish the season?
No, I think obviously it could mean something really big because it's been a tough season. So winning a Europa League could be really a big achievement.
Destiny, can you explain the differences between the Premier League form, which has been difficult for you guys, and obviously your form in Europe, which has been fantastic, really?
I think it's been a tough season because of the injuries. You know, we have had a lot of injuries, so I think it's been a big part of it. And in the Europe, I think it's been the teams talking together and performing at the highest level.
And from a personal point of view, for yourself, you've had an excellent season. There's been some speculation as well regarding your future. Manchester City were linked with you. That must be a nice thing to hear.
No, I think personally it's been a tough season with injuries and everything, catching up the form. But at the same time, we're trying to finish the season strong. So I'm trying to have my team, and that's it.
Both sides have endured difficult seasons. Is there strong belief within the Tottenham camp that you can win it?
Yeah, definitely. From the first day since we qualified for the Europa League, it's been the major thing. So yeah.
Ange talked about some of those black and white photographs up on the walls and some of the past achievements and wanting to make success of your own. Do the players resonate with that?
Yeah, definitely. We all want to win. Obviously, it's been a long time since this club won a trophy, so that's the goal this season.
Destiny, what about the manager? He's had a lot of criticism this season, and he said the second season quote, which went viral. How important is it for the players to win something for him?
No, I think we all want to win because it's something all football players want to do. So we're working through that, and hopefully we can get it done.
You have a good relationship still with Ange, and now building?
100%, yeah. All the players, we are with the manager, so yeah.
Destiny, what is it about you, Mickey, Porro and Kuti when you play together? Just everything seems to work.
I think obviously we've been together from last season, so there's the connection of knowing each other and everyone working well together. So I think it's just a strong connection.
And we've seen the video footage of Ange's speech after you guys went through to the final. How often does he do that? What is it like when he's talking to you boys in the dressing room?
No, I think he always transmits a lot of like passion and determination to go out there and play for him. So it's something he does every day in the training ground and also at the game. So we are used to it.
How would you analyse this season so far, Brennan?
Yeah, just like a roller coaster, I think. It's been some good highs, some obviously disappointments. Probably lacked a bit of consistency, but with where we are now, going into a final, I think if you offered that at the start of the season, we'd be really excited by that situation. So now we just got to look forward.
Brennan, is that disappointment tempered a little bit, just given the season that you've had from a personal perspective? You've played such an integral part.
No, it still just hurts me just as much as anyone when we lose, and for me it's just about trying to win games and try and be successful, because that's where I know the team can be. I feel like last season we had that consistency more, which is why we were able to finish a lot higher in the league. But yeah, scoring goals doesn't really make me feel any better. But obviously it's been nice to get more this season.
been a wonderful showing in this competition so far this season. Can you finish it off?
Yeah, I'm confident. We have to do everything we can now to prepare right for this game, and just then it's down to us. It's about how we perform on the pitch.
You've achieved quite a bit of success for a relatively young player with club and country. Just how special would this be for you if you could do it?
Yeah, it'd be a dream come true. I think I've had some good moments in my career at the moment, but European trophy would be unbelievable. I'm sure a lot of the lads would say the same thing. So it's a special game to be involved in, but now it's just about kind of mentally preparing, physically preparing for what's to come.
So there you go. That was Brennan Johnson and Destiny Udogie, as we are going to close this show very, very shortly. I must just say, isn't it lovely, although this isn't a lovely point I'm going to make here, that, a player who is on the verge of about to play in a European final is asked about the interest for Man City. I found that absolutely bizarre. But hasn't really surprised, as I can see Jason there shaking his head. I mean, we've got the biggest game for the football club in 5-6 years, and Destiny, to be fair to him, I thought his response was absolutely top draw, wasn't it? He just said, look, I haven't had the season that I've wanted, and the focus is on the final. And again, it's been comments like that, Jace, that really has, I think, pissed off, if I put it politely, a lot of fans this season. You've had, again, I know we touched upon this last week, you had the likes of Arsene Wenger coming out suggesting that really United and Tottenham, when you look at the final, there shouldn't be a rewarded Champions League. They should both be put back in to the Europa League. I mean, is this kind of, as Dave touched upon earlier, typical hatred for Tottenham, because almost that is the way the media is built if you're just simply not a Tottenham fan, Jace?
I think so. I've found the narrative around every single Europa game since Christmas to be wrong, in fairness. We've gone, like I say, last week, we've gone into every single game like it's the manager's last game, and there's been constant talk about that instead of just concentrating on the actual game itself. So I don't like it. I famously had a pop, didn't I, at your mate Darmish when when he brought up in a press conference when Pochettino was there. I didn't want to be playing Everton. He spent the whole time talking to him about the Man United job, I think, when Solskjaer got the job, and it's been like it ever since. Just like I say, a press conference is there to talk about the game, not other things. And it happens at all clubs, in fairness, and we get it all summer when every manager's asked, are they signing this player? And you get exactly the same answer every time. I can't talk about other players, but they constantly ask questions like that. Perhaps get a new set of journalists next year and just let Bridgie do the Tottenham stuff. Just get Bridgie on, let him deal with Tottenham, and then tell the rest of them to get stuffed.
Can I add to that? Look, I'm not surprised. How many years were they trying to sell Harry Kane? Before that, they were trying to sell Son. They realised they couldn't do it. So for years, they were trying to sell Harry Kane to this club, that club. They do it with all of Tottenham's best players. When we have Bale, Modric, players like that, they do it all the time. Everyone likes to take an opportunity to destabilise Tottenham. But I also wonder how much of that is our own fault. Sometimes are we a bit weak to the pressure that's put on the club? You see other clubs stand up to it, and I'm talking about internally. Sir Alex Ferguson for years, when they tried to destabilise what he was doing at United, they just revoked their press pass. You're not coming in asking stupid questions anymore. Do we do enough of that inside Tottenham to protect the people? You look at Nottingham Forest. Last year, they were down in the relegation zone, moaning they weren't getting benefits of the decisions in terms of referees. Look where they are now. They brought in Matt Clartenberg, put the pressure on them. Arteta, look at the amount of decisions Arsenal get. Puts the pressure on them. Jurgen Klopp, when he was at Liverpool, puts the pressure on the referees, gets the decisions. We don't use the press conferences enough to speak out about the injustices that happen to Tottenham Hotspur. We almost just roll over and accept it. I would like to see us put a more united front out there towards the media, and I think you'll start seeing some of that stuff change.
We have to hope so. Look, we're in the final part of this show. I'll say a massive thank you to the 5,500 that have been watching us from the start. Again, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. We know how big this week is for all of us here. George is going off to BILBAO very, very soon in this next 24 hours or so. I'm sharing that time with Jason watching it at the stadium, as a lot of Last Word on Spurs continue at the stadium. I think Dave will be flying the flag in Ireland, unless I'm wrong, Dave. It's going to be a very, very interesting week for a lot of us and what it does mean. And I know, Jace, just on this point, I know you hate noise. I know you hate any real negativity around the club. I know for you that I know you lay a lot of the blame this season on the players. I think you understand also there's been the frustration around the manager, and rightly so, because the results haven't been good enough. But I mean, gut feeling, just to ask you, Jace, on this, I think many will be intrigued to know. I think you have said it already, maybe about if Tottenham do win or don't win the final. What do you anticipate to happen with Ange's future? Do you see it being completely different if they do win it to if they don't win it? I mean, very quickly, how do you see that playing out?
I've just said I'm fed up discussing his future before Europa League games, and there I'm not answering the question.
I just think
wait the game, and then we'll talk about it Thursday morning, mate.
Do you
talk
think
about it Thursday morning? Shouldn't be talking about it before. You should not be talking about the future of the manager before a cup final. Just concentrate on the cup final.
Do you boys feel the same on that? David? I mean, I know, Dave, you've been quite passionate about the recruitment that's been obviously letting Ange down, but also there's been acknowledgement that the results haven't been good enough. Do you follow Jason's same line there that it shouldn't be discussed until after the cup final?
To a certain degree, but I mean, it's hard to ignore it or what's gone on this season. I mean, it is something where, you know, you sort of have to have your sort of thoughts on it. At the end of the day, you know, I think the narrative is out there right now. Even if we do win it, okay, but can this squad and Postecoglou compete on all four fronts next season? Spurs fans won't tolerate next season, you know, this squad and the manager prioritizing one competition over another. We just will not accept it. We want to be competing on all fronts. And I think that question will still be there, even if Postecoglou wins. Look, it's not been good enough from Andrew's point of view. You'd like to think, you know, for instance, right, you look at Crystal Palace, Ollie Glasner. I was over there for the Palace game, by the way. I was disgusted. You know, to be honest, I went there with low expectations. I wasn't really expecting much from a Tottenham perspective or a Tottenham performance. You know, I was just over there for vibes, to be quite frank with you. But the reality is, you know, I look at Crystal Palace, they put out a full-strength team and they went at us. They had an FA Cup final. They ended up getting over the line there yesterday, you know. But, you know, they were still able to compete in the Premier League, even though they had a final coming up. Why can't we? You know, we're supposed to be Tottenham Hotspur. We're supposed to be a much bigger club than someone like Palace. I think, you know, this season would have been acceptable for someone like Palace, but it's not acceptable for someone like Tottenham Hotspur. Look, a lot of times this season, you know, when I've been on with other panelists and maybe these sort of put everything on Ange, I have come out in, and a lot of people maybe put it in defense of Ange and stuff like that. But all I was saying all along is, back in January, what manager is going to walk into Tottenham with all the injuries that we had? None. So it was always going to keep Postecoglou in the job. And people always said, Dave, yeah, but why, you know, is the squad still with him? Why are the squad still with him? I've always said, put yourself in the shoes of the players. He protects them in the media. And coming out ahead to this final, what do you keep hearing? The players are still with him. Basuma was one of the latest ones, by the way, because he protects them in the media. You know, he's kept them on side, and that's why they've been able to make a good go of this Europa League. So, look, to be honest with you, I don't really know where I'm at right now. I'm probably going to base it on how I'm feeling after winning Europa League, because I could sit here now, but all of a sudden we win, I could feel completely different. But, you know, sometimes just winning a trophy can be the catalyst for everybody moving forward. Sometimes you just need that. So, to be honest with you, I'm going to wait to see how I feel after the final and judge it then.
Yep. I mean, the reason why, Jason, I understand your point that the focus, of course, is on this final. But I think the reason why, George, it has brought so much attention to it, and Jason will argue it's not been the right attention, the negative attention ahead of the final, is because there's no, at the moment, outstanding candidate, I think, outside of Ange Postecoglou for the future of the club. And I think, you know, I know there's a lot of people that feel he's not the right man, but there will be, I think, as we saw once we got to the final, there will be a lot of people, I think, that if Ange Postecoglou delivers Tottenham's first European trophy in over 40 years, and we've now had it confirmed as well that next Friday, if Tottenham do win the Europa League, they will have an open-top bus parade that will work its way through Tottenham, beginning at Edmonton Green, heading down the high road before ending up at the stadium, where later that day you will have a trophy presentation. My feeling is, George, if you agree, that if Ange Postecoglou is going to hold that trophy aloft to Tottenham fans, you know, I'm not sure if Daniel Levy the next day brings him in his office and sacks him. That's my feeling. I'm just really unsure. What do you feel, George?
It depends if there's some sort of mutual understanding there between them, that it's like he maybe bows out on a high, like we were talking about Sonny earlier. I think for me personally on the whole subject, look, My mind is completely on Wednesday and the fact that I just can't stop thinking about the final, and I just wish I was in Bilbao now. But when it
not in this conversation.
Well, yeah, I want to be on a beach somewhere. We're getting prepared for this match, but the way I look at it, and I think it's quite simple, to be honest with you, and it's there are echoes with what happened with Ten Hag and Man United. Look, it's not all exactly the same as that. It's not all cases are the same. The problem is when so many people in the fan base are against your manager. And let's be frank, that so many people are in the fan base. Even if he does deliver this trophy, it does just feel like to me, the moment if we were to step into next season with him as the manager, the moment there is any sort of slip up, it is going to be chaos. People are going to be saying Ange out straight away. There's going to be pressure from the very beginning. And that we saw that happen with Ten Hag. He won the FA Cup. He brought that bit of joy to United and thinking, oh, hold on, he's won 2 trophies in 2 years now. Maybe we should give him that extension. We can't sack him after winning a trophy. And the same sort of things happened. The football didn't improve. They didn't improve. And they got rid of him mid-season. And at that point, you're just recovering. So I think when so much the fan base are sort of against him, sometimes it is just best to sort of, we win the Europa League, leave on a massive high. He was the person that's brought us this big trophy, change the mentality of the club to a degree to be winners and understand what it's like for these group of players to be winners. And then you just move on and you evolve. You bring in the next manager, you bring in more players, you become a better team. I think that's probably how it would pan out if things happen that way.
Yeah, I know, Jace, there's been an argument, there's been a lot of listeners on here that every time it's got tough, you've taken yourself to Thailand for 4 weeks and then come back and hopefully come back in a better state of mind. I appreciate for you, look, you don't want to enter the discussion of it, but do you feel hypothetically that, for a club to be successful long term, you do need that manager and fan base relationship? Look, a trophy, also obviously a trophy can bring fans back on board. I know you don't want to go down into the discussion, but is there a world where he's parading the Europa League on Friday and then he's sacked on the Saturday?
Quite possibly, but I'm not even worried about next Friday. Just concentrate on Wednesday, boy. Wednesday is all that matters. Wednesday is all that matters. I mean, the irony is, if you said to him, what 3 things the Tottenham need to do, one is win a trophy, one is be in the Champions League, and one is to turn this team into a bunch of winners, and he ticks all 3 boxes, but you sack him. It's just, just the rights and wrongs of it, and I see it from both sides. Honestly, I see it from both sides. But let's be honest, they're hypothetical questions. We don't know yet if we're in next year's Champions League. We don't know yet if he's turned this team into a bunch of winners. Let's get that part of the equation done and then have the conversation. I don't know what I want for tea next Saturday lunchtime. I don't know if I want spaghetti bolognese or fish and chips. I don't know. I'll tell you on Saturday lunchtime which one I want. But until then, it's pointless. I'm going to eat Wednesday night's chicken curry first, aren't I? Before I worry about fish and chips. So just concentrate on what's in front of us and distract from the noise. Don't get ahead of yourself.
You wriggled you out of this one well, McGovern. You wriggled you out of this one well.
Honestly, I've like I've said, whether I like him or not, I found it abhorrent that every single game we constantly discuss the future of the manager before we're playing an important game. This is the 1 week where it really shouldn't matter. It's just concentrate on the bloody game and play it and go and win it, and then we'll have the conversations.
Is just a quick on that, but is that just the world, Jace? Now we live in a social media. You come from I don't remember me saying it's a time when there wasn't, every day you're waking up to a different headline. Is that just the world we live in now? Not that it's rightly, but that's the case we live in.
No, absolutely, it's the world you live in. Everyone has an opinion on everything, and they're entitled to have their opinions. And everyone's opinion is right because it's their opinion. So, but at some stage, the club can't run itself for social media content, can it? It has to make an important decision, and that decision does have a dependence on the result of next Wednesday. So have the result of next Wednesday, and then we'll sit down and discuss it.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Look, go on, Dave, sorry.
I was going to say, I really think it comes down to whether there's a big climb down from the media and some sections of the Tottenham fan base on Postecoglou. I think if that narrative eases, I think then there is a world where the two can coexist going into next season. If that sentiment is still there despite him winning, because sometimes people don't want to admit they're wrong. The big thing around Postecoglou was he's not good enough, he's tactically clueless, this, that, and the other. If he wins the Europa League, then, that's sort of bats back at that narrative to a large degree. And it's just whether people are going to have a big come down and say, you know what, look, he's delivered despite what I thought, let's give it a chance. If that doesn't happen, then I think there will have to be a parting of ways. What we can't have is a manager going into next season on a short lease on the first 10-game basis.
Yeah.
Because then if you've spent all that summer gearing up to give that manager what he wants and you sack him 10 games in, your season's already written off. You're trying to pivot then in the January window, which we're not notoriously great at, and there's problems on the horizon. So it has to be a manager that they see going through the full season.
And I think just very quickly for me, I think the thing that's probably baffled a few fans in recent games as well is just when you see how the tactics have changed at Bodo away and Frankfurt away.
Yes.
And it's it just kind of begs the question of like, where was this when we had all the fit players and everything, like where you can adapt? Okay, you're going away to a tough ground where a team always scores or they always win. We go a little bit more defensive. You go a bit more on the counter attack versus to what we're normally with this aggressive pressing. And it worked. And I think that's what people were just questioning is like, why couldn't we see this all season across Premier League games to maybe rest some legs? Or maybe you're going to a ground that is tough like an Anfield. We can't press them relentlessly. Let's go a bit more counter-attacking or go a bit more direct. I think that's where it's such a difficult question to be answered as, can he do this going forward across 4 competitions, especially the Champions League? That is the big question. And if all the people that are paid a lot of money at Spurs, if they decide he can't, okay, then he goes. If they decide he can, they push on with him. So again, it's the similar sort of thing. You just don't know until we get over the line with this Europa League as to what position we're in. Because if we lose, let's just face it, he's gone. You can't be 17th and no trophy. He's just gone. So that's already one out of the question. And I think that we just got to completely reassess once this once this Europa League final's done.
And just just for listeners on audio, because they can't see Jason's reaction, Jason is also saying yes, he is nodding to that point. If we do finish 17th and we don't win a trophy, he has to go. Look, just before we do close on this point, just a couple of reminders out there, a bit of housekeeping. For those that are going to be at the stadium screening, there's going to be a bit of build-up beforehand at 6:45 p.m. UK time. There's a real urgency and also a real message out there from the fan groups. Wear white, bring your flags, bring your scarves, make noise, build atmosphere, create history. And that's also a similar message that is also being mentioned to those that are going to the stadium in Bilbao. And Spurs song sheet, CHFC flags, Return of the Shelf are arranging a march from the fan zone to the stadium. They're calling all fans to meet at the exit of the Amatzola fan park at 7 p.m. and march to the stadium en masse together with a short 15-minute walk to the stadium. It says we want everyone together, showing their colours, flags, bringing the noise into the stadium. They're going to be putting out their own comms in the next day or so, but that's from Spurs song sheets, THFC flag, Return the Shelf, trying to really build the atmosphere for, of course, Wednesday. It feels going to be a big week. I'm not going to ask guys your predictions. I'm just going to ask you finally, closing message. If you had a message for the fans or the players or the staff, what would that message be, D? What would your message be to this group of players that are 90 minutes away from being, let's be honest about it, historians? They're going to potentially be European winners. And where I do agree with Jason, what he says is no one will remember 22, 23 Premier League defeats if it becomes that, if Tottenham do win this European trophy, Dave.
Yeah, look, I would say to players heading into this, I'd be using Son and Ben Davies' past experience to hurt the burden that they've carried with them over the years. And then I'd be sitting there and I'd say to the players, I'd almost throw a lot of headlines that the media have printed about these guys, put them out there, and say, look, guys, despite what's gone on this season, miraculously, we're still within a position to be able to win silverware, something that people say we can't do. If we win this and we get over the line, it's a big FU to everybody. Everyone that said we can't do it, it's a big FU to all the rivals out there. Let's not forget, Tottenham Hotspur is a big club. Despite the way we act, despite the frustrations, we are a massive club. We draw eyes on us. Whether people are tuning in, look, most of them are tuning in for Tottenham's failure, but they watch. And that's the main thing. They watch because they know that games with Tottenham are genuinely exciting. Let's come out on the right side of history this time. For me, that's what it's all about. European nights, under the lights, lily white. Let's bloody have it. I'm pumped. Hopefully everyone's... Look, I get that people might be a bit angry, upset and everything else with how Tottenham have performed this season. I urge people, 41 years since we last won a European trophy. 6 years since we've last made this stage of a European competition. It doesn't come around very often. And I don't know when I'm going to see another one. It took me nearly 30 years or 20 odd years to even get to a Champions League final. Could take me another 20 years to get back there. So soak it up and enjoy it.
David, thank you so much, mate. Lovely to be part of the pod.
Pleasure, Jets.
Absolute superstar. He's pumped. George, you're out there in Bilbao.
Yes.
How excited are you going to be for what's to come? You know, many won't forget your scenes of seeing the Champions League final as you've shown us, you know, for a lot of the vlogs that you've done. God, Tottenham need this, right?
Oh, massively. And look, I echo everything they've just said there. It's to me, it's all about the feeling that you're going to get in that moment. And look, at the end of the day, we're at a European final. I think every fan watching this just has to embrace this moment because, exactly like you just said, it's not going to come around often at all. And we have a real chance, and the players have a real chance to sort of etch their name in glory of the club. And I completely echo the points you made earlier. 21 defeats is bad, whatever. Like, come on, you are not going to think about that if we win this trophy. We got to a Champions League final and no one ever mentions the fact that we were absolutely awful in the league from January onwards.
I think we didn't win a game for about 9-10 months.
No, we were atrocious in the league. No one they just remembered the semi-final nights, the games against City. Like, that's what people care about, is the moments at Tottenham. And I think if we win this trophy, it's going to be huge for everyone. I'm so happy and lucky to sort of be there, and I'm just going to be embracing all my family, and hopefully it's not ruined in 30 seconds this time. Touch wood. But it's a real chance to sort of get that feeling back that Tottenham, you know, is a big club and we can do big things going forward.
Yeah, I mean, just on that point, as we look to close, Jay, so I know we're going to watch it together. It's going to be a very wholesome moment for both of us to see a European finals together. And, you know, on this point, we said at the start of the show, to kind of close it on this point, there was a feeling in 2019 that maybe we were lucky to be there. I think there is that feeling, despite, we're parking the league form and what we've gone through this season, beating United 3 times. There's a feeling that we now need to win this. You know, it's different to that feeling in 2019. Can we channel that feeling now and really get behind this team, and hopefully, fingers crossed, they deliver for us?
Yeah, I think the first thing is we fully deserve to be there. There's been no luck in. I've seen a couple of people say we're lucky to be there. I don't know where the luck's come from. We fully deserve to be in the final because we've beaten all the sides we've been up against. So we deserve to be it. It's time to look around those walls. I think, as Anne said, there's enough pictures up there in black and white. It's time to put some colour ones on the wall. It's time for this group to say, look, you can go down in history. Make yourself the special players that ends this 17-year drought, the 41 years without a European trophy, and just seize the opportunity and believe you can do it. And if the belief is there, I genuinely think on and off the pitch, the belief has to be there. None of this business, it's so Spursy that we've beaten them 3 times and the 4th time it won't matter. Forget all of that. Be positive. Go there with real confidence and belief. And you know what? Other teams that go there in belief to finals usually turn up. And we sometimes just cower under a little thing. We criticise the players for not turning up on the day, but we don't turn up on the day mentally ourselves as supporters. So go with real belief and it can happen.
Yeah, I know, like I say, Lee McQueen has been positively putting out manifestation in the last few weeks. We have to believe ourselves we can win it, and also that translates to the players. David, I want to say a massive thank you, mate. Listen, I'm sure the Irish Hotspur will be very, very busy on that evening with a lot of content. So, Dave, we thank you. George, we're really looking forward to seeing your journey across the socials on that post-match blog. And please, God, it involves Spurs winning and lifting their first European trophy in over 41 years.
If we did, there will be plenty of tears if we do.
And there might be tears on Dave's behalf as well. Me and Jason will be in tears as well together. It's going to be an emotional night. Look, the countdown to Bilbao has begun. Listen, enjoy what is going to be a very, very emotional, massive week in store for this football club and our fan base. From David, from George, from Jason, from me, we have been the last word on Spurs. We are in Cup final week. From us all, keep safe, keep well, and as always,